Hey everybody, KC here. As promised, here is part two of my conversation with Boxed co-founder and CEO Chieh Huang. But talk a little bit about those loyalty programs a little bit for people who don't know exactly what you're doing there.
Yeah, so for about $50 a year, you are become a boxed up member, and so you get free delivery on just about all deliveries, 2% cash back, as well as sponsored discounts on items that we're already running a sale on. So you'll get an even better price. And so for at $9.99 for an item, if we're on a discount on that item, you might see it $8.99. Boxed up members get an even deeper price discount, and so it's quite easy actually to make your money back for those loyal customers that choose to be a part of that program.
How much are you paying attention to what people are buying in the sense of being able to then market more effectively to them, right? I think that
Oh,
because to me that's always, I mean, I'll be honest, that's actually something that I think I've always wondered. I don't think Amazon does it, but as vaunted as they are, I think they do actually a terrible job of connecting the dots, considering how many touch points they have with people between the online store and Whole Foods and everyone, all those sorts of things. So how are
I,
you trying to connect the dots?
we should grab a drink because we could talk for hours on this.
Okay, I'm
What
there.
you, it's one of the things that almost no one in the industry is talking about.
Yeah.
Like as a shopper, like everyone almost universally says, "Hey, what Amazon is recommending to me." I'm like, I just bought a pencil. They're saying, here's another pencil. It's like I just bought one from you. The reason behind it is because remember, it goes back to that basket building and the anti-basket building approach that they did. Their data set basically has a ton of info on me and you on what we buy and one of them. And so, in terms of what else goes into that basket, it's my theory that that data set and what other folks could buy and the nexus between all those different items partially drove why they bought Whole Foods. Because as data hungry as they are, it's just not the same level of data if you have 10 baskets of one item each versus someone like a Whole Foods or one of the retailers out there that says, I've got data on this person coming in every week buying 15 items. That data, you ask any data scientist out there, that is much more important and valuable data. And so basket building, we're able to glean those insights. So when you come in and you click a few things and you add an item to cart, even if you don't check out, it's easy for us to begin to map you along that journey from the millions of other folks that have come into the site and have done virtually the same thing. And so that data set is really powerful.
And then are you able to react to it in a way that consumers do not find intrusive?
Yeah, we've been trying to do that. So, as folks kind of watch this and go shop the site, I hope as you add to cart, you'll see kind of different recommendations come up in an unobtrusive kind of manner, whether in the cart or whether in the gallery view. If you add to cart, suddenly it flips into, hey, other folks have bought these items. Um, we try to be there everywhere you look to get you to continue that basket building journey without being in your face and it having kind of a hard gate of saying, hey, we're not going to let you go here unless you buy another item from us. So I think we do a good job of using the data to create those breadcrumbs.
And again, for people who have not been on the site, to what degree are you? What I always hate to go back to Amazon as a comparison point, but it's a good benchmark. One of the complaints about Amazon lately is there's so much sponsored stuff. If I call up, I want one of these. I
Yeah.
got to go through 9 mugs that people have paid for sponsored space just to get to the one that I've actually asked for. Are you involved in that game as well in terms of manufacturers getting prime and better positioning even than what people are asking for when they go on your site? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so certainly advertising is a part of our revenue sources. But I would say the ad load that you see on the site is way less than you would see on potentially Amazon. Because you're exactly right. When you go on that site, you got to scroll kind of 1 or 2 times before you start to get to the real meat of the page often, especially if you're on a mobile device. And for a consumer, it gets a little bit difficult to discern whether is this really kind of the one that I should buy, or is this the one I should buy because someone paid someone to tell me that it should be the one I buy. But with that, we had sponsor listings. That's all programmatic, so brands can go in there and promote their own brand towards the top of the page and a specific target areas. But at the same time, it would be the shock of my life if folks kind of shop the site and say one of the key detraction points of Box was that there's too many ads all over the place, and I couldn't decide what to buy. And so I would say ad load is still relatively low on our site and our properties.
So let's circle back for a second, because you talked a little bit before about becoming a technology provider to other retailers. Talk a little bit about that piece of your business and sort of how you've grown it and where it's positioned at the moment, and how large a percentage of your business you think that's going to be going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting part of our future. I think as much as kind of we've worked on the technology, marrying that technology with companies with huge scale, I think it's really, really exciting. So, for example, our Lighthouse account with our e-commerce or enablement side of the business, we've named it Spresso, so SPRESSO. So the Spresso team partnering with Aeon, AEON, one of Asia's largest retailers. They're an $83 billion company,
Sure.
Largest retailer in Japan. Has done some amazing things for them. So when you go to Aeon Malaysia, for example, buy online, pick up in store, ship to home, all those items, the pick software, it's all built upon a white label version of Boxed. And so we love it partially because it's exciting on what you can do with someone at scale using our technology. But also we love it because it's a great part of the business. It's 70-80% gross margin business on some of these accounts that we've kind of deployed. So I think for twofold, it's quite exciting for us.
Sorry, you've just made me think about something. So I'm going to go back and ask you another strategic alternative question.
Sure.
Could you foresee a scenario in which that piece of your business got spun off from the retail part of your business?
I think when it comes to strategic alternatives, we're evaluating everything. And so I don't want to rule anything out, but I don't want to say how we started our conversation where one is more preferable to the other. I think anything can be attractive or not so attractive depending on the flavor it comes in. And so I'll reserve judgment until we have all the options on the table.
So I didn't expect you to tell me, oh yeah, that's what we're going to do. Although it would have been great.
Yeah, Kevin, that's when you hit stop record. Then I'll tell you. No, I'm kidding.
So thinking back to 2013, 2014, I'm curious, as you look back, what do you think was the most important insight you sort of brought to your business model? And is that different than what you thought would you answer the question differently today, almost a decade into it, than you would have answered it back then?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the insight that we brought, and one of the core premise, I would say, of the company early on, of why we started the company, was that basket building approach. So that's something that's been consistent throughout. And when we rewind all the way 10 years ago, e-commerce just was still robust, but it wasn't what it is today. And we take that for granted that there's been so many innovations from then until now. There was almost no one online really trying to build a basket for you or help you build a basket. And so we thought, well, that could be the missing unlock in grocery online, because grocery generally is lower margin. But if you can amortize that over one single box with many items, then you might be able to make it work and get a decent gross margin shipping even heavy items to someone's home. And so I think that's the common through line throughout the last decade of my life here. With that said, I think the ups and downs along the way have been the other points of innovation that have come on the backs of that. So whether it's even, as we kind of semi-joked about 15-minute delivery, right, ship to home, robotics, all these other things, geez, I mean, it's really accelerated over the last 5-6 years. And so again, that's why I think I wish I could go back to those folks who said, don't go into grocery because it's like kind of a boring industry, and why would a technologist try to go there? I wish I could go back and say, just you wait, because this next decade, we'll see the biggest innovation and frankly, one of the biggest industries when it comes to dollar volume across the whole world.
Hey, um, why haven't you done automatic replenishment in the sense
Uh,
of a subscribe and save type offer? So if my wife, or if I'm shopping for, paper towels and I know I go through this much paper towels every 2 months, I just place an order and it's gone. I don't think you do that, do you?
so unlimited items we do, and it's limited because our core value proposition is remember it's convenience and ease of basket building. And so if we're just sending you something, a single item nonstop, I think margin wise it's pretty tough for us because we're not filling that basket up with other items to you.
Right.
But at the same time, I think folks come to for that semi-weekly, weekly, monthly shop for us. And so just getting something on auto repeat is not really core to the business that we're trying to build. With that said, I think the unlock there would be how do you get someone to subscribe to a basket? That's
I was
when
gonna
things get
say,
interesting.
I have 20 items on subscribe and save every month come through here, and
That's when it gets interesting.
so um um and they do very little that I can tell to capitalize on that. But
Yep.
I think in most households, and well, and listen, even if one person is a household, their just needs
Yep.
are different, right? They wouldn't order as often. But it would seem to me that's an enormous opportunity. If you and maybe listen, you could subscribe, but you got to have minimum 5 items. Let's say I don't know what your number would be,
Yep.
but I would think that would be an enormous opportunity for you guys in terms of building, and not just building a basket, but building a basket that recurs every 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it happens to be.
Oh yeah, and that gets delivered in the manner you want it to be delivered,
Right,
right? Because that same basket might get delivered, or you might want to pick it up in store,
right.
or you might, geez, I totally forgot. I need it in an hour. Like I'm just back from vacation. It's getting late at night. I just need it now. And so again, it goes back to that like really simple kind of north star for the whole industry, that seamless experience that actually just doesn't exist today, but it's getting closer to existing because the logistics are getting smoother, folks are paying attention to this. And then lastly, there's enough kind of data science out there and data out there to start making some of those things into reality. Because what you're saying about replenishing a basket of goods at the right time, in the right amount, in a recurring way, that's a really difficult data science problem to solve. But as we collect more and more of that data as an industry, I think we'll get better at it.
Yeah. Did you, I'm backing up again. Did you overbuild during the pandemic? So many e-commerce companies overbuilt in terms of overhiring, getting more space, warehouse space. I mean, Amazon's the most obvious example, but a lot of companies did that and now are having to kind of back off that. Did you avoid that particular pothole during the pandemic? Are you now dealing with, or did you not, and are you now having to back off that a little bit?
Yeah, I think luckily, we didn't. So we didn't build a ton of extra capacity. We didn't kind of go too overboard on inventory positions, and so I think luckily we've been okay there. With that said, to have a very balanced approach and a balanced answer, we like many companies out there last year had to do a small reduction in force, so we had to say goodbye to some wonderful team members that I wish we could have kept. If I could do anything differently, I think that would be something that I would have tried to avoid. But it wasn't I would say, in a degree or in a quantum that really would surprise anyone.
Yeah.
So I think, luckily, I think we were pretty tempered and measured in our approach to the pandemic.
So I asked you before what the key insight was you brought that you thought you had 13, back in 2013, 14. What's the thing you wish you'd known then that you didn't know?
Oh, um, I think I think that it will come. So, meaning, here's what I mean by that. When we first started, there just wasn't a lot of change in the industry, especially in the first few years. And oftentimes, you're kind of going to, vendor partners, you're going to different companies. You're just like, believe me, online grocery will be a thing, and it will be this massive kind of force of change in the world. And it was pretty tough in the beginning because you're not at big scale yet. You're just kind of saying, the sky is going to fall and that this and that is going to happen. Luckily, I think we did have the faith, but I would be remiss in saying that, some late nights in the early days that I didn't say, did we really pick the right industry here? And I wish I could go back to that, 2013, 2014 version of me and just say, dude, believe me,
For a
you want
while.
to stick this thing through because it's about to get pretty wild. So, and certainly the last 36 months has fit that bill.
And I'm clearly focusing on key insights. Is there a key insight beyond what you've just described that you think is critical to your future at the moment? Is there something you're
Oh,
seeing that you're saying that's good, that our future is going to be built on that?
I I think the critical insight that I'm putting in my mind now for the next 10 years is that the ingredients are there to create that North Star that has been elusive for so long for the industry. Um, we talked about the data science. We talked about logistics. We talked about physical footprint, people making it work to get you something in 15 minutes or less. That experience and that app or that website that allows you to order something so that it's, or on your way home, or to meet you at your home, or to meet you on the weekend, or even when you're on vacation, in whatever manner you want, in whatever size you want, and speed that you want, we're getting closer. And I think when you look at the players starting to eat at online grocery, that I think everyone is starting to get privy to that. So you never would have thought some of these other folks who are in restaurant delivery or simply rideshare would be, so into online grocery, because I think everyone knows that the ingredients are now set to build that end goal North Star, and someone will build it. And I think that first seamless experience will be a very powerful one in terms of gathering market share.
Yeah. No, you just explained something that I've been wrestling with in my mind and haven't been able to actually, I don't think, put into words that well, which is that there are so many disparate elements out there, right? And there's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yep.
stuff going on. And and nobody's really put it together, all the different elements, whether it's in store, creating a frictionless experience in store, being able to order very easily from your car, to for pickup, deliver. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that strikes me that we're, this close from being realized technologically, right? And but because a lot of stuff's happening in a lot of different places with a lot of different companies, and there's a lot of different silos out there, it's like, considering where we are in terms of history, it strikes me that we don't even know what the we what I should let me say. I think we kind of know what the puzzle's going to look like when it's assembled. I think there's just sort of a sense of it, but I don't even think we're close yet to having all the pieces in hand. Right? There's still a lot of
It
gaps in terms of the puzzle pieces. I think.
yeah.
Is that a fair?
I think that's relatively fair, and it's also very frustrating as a person so in love with technology that we're actually having serious conversations about how do we colonize Mars, and at the same time here on Earth we're trying to figure this
Yeah.
out. So I think the technology is beginning to exist. We just have to put it together, and someone will put it together. I'm fundamentally believe that. It might not even be someone that we think would do it. If it was that easy, I think Amazon would have done it already. But as folks out there know, different times along the Amazon journey, you have to use different apps. So there was a time when Amazon Prime Now, you have to open up a different app for that. Like that was a different app than the Amazon app. And so if it was so easy, the largest e-commerce company in the world would have done it years ago. And I think we're all still chasing it at the moment.
Well, ironically, considering Amazon was founded by a guy who's invested a lot of money in rocket ships,
Yeah.
they have just discovered something that most people knew existed before, and that's called gravity, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're having trouble dealing with the fact that there's gravity even on their business model, and that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
You've been really incredibly generous with your time, and I really appreciate it. I'm curious, in the CPG grocery space, just in general, is there a business model that you think is ripest for disruption?
Oh, I think just in the whole industry in general.
Whole industry. Is there a model that you look at and
I
say,
think
they're doing it the old way, and boy, if somebody came, not necessarily you, but if somebody came in with that's just ready to be disrupted?
I think for me, the one that is most salient in my mind is maybe not one that you would think I would say, but it's third-party fulfillment and third-party distribution. I think time and time and again, whether you're a brand or a retailer, you're good at one thing, but everyone finds fulfillment and distribution a gigantic headache. And then when you talk to folks that like the third party fulfillment folks out there, oftentimes the systems are rather antiquated, or you have to call 5 different fulfillers to kind of cobble together your own national network, and then call someone else for cold chain stuff. Um, I think someone's going to come in and roll all that up, so it becomes the call whether you want to fulfill one little item in an entire basket of frozen groceries, or like a big screen TV. I think someone's going to come in there and be that call they can make, because I think right now a lot of people are struggling with that in terms of who do I trust, and do I build it myself, or do I rely on a spaghetti kind of patchwork of providers?
And you're talking, when you talk about third party fulfillment, you're talking about the FedEx, UPS world. Is that the segment you're talking about?
Yeah, I would say it, so. Yeah, it's that. So like whether it's brands going direct to consumer, or even retailers wanting to fulfill, last mile or multi-day fulfillment for a customer, a lot of that is still quite a patchwork of different providers. So I think that all becomes seamless and over time. But at least right now, I think that's the one place probably ripe for disruption.
Well, and that's interesting because when you think about it, FedEx built a business model on disrupting a very old-fashioned
Yeah.
right? They developed it. So if what they haven't figured out yet is they need to figure out the model that would put themselves out of business, right, before somebody else does, which is clearly what Amazon, for that matter, is trying to do. With the gray trucks, that now you see more of those than you see FedEx trucks or UPS trucks. I mean, that's clearly what they're trying to figure it out. I don't think they've figured it out yet, but they're on. That's clearly the path they're on.
I think it's FedEx has built an amazing business, and they've been great partners for us. I think it's one step even above that. So meaning that let's just say we started, Kevin and Chieh's chocolate company. We need cold chain logistics. I want to put it in someone's network, and I want to just tell that network when I need it to deliver to somebody in an hour or less, in 2 days or less, or distribute it to XYZ grocery chain because they put in a truckload order. So that at least to my knowledge, I don't think that exists in a very seamless way today, and you end up having to call 3 different providers for what I just said.
Well, now we figured out what your next gig is.
Yeah, I know.
Because you haven't got enough. Because you haven't got enough to do right now.
Exactly. Yeah, they're busy days these days, Kevin.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
It's really interesting. I think that I'm supposed to be dispassionate about these things, but I never am. I root for companies like yours to be successful because I just think it makes the world more interesting. So
awesome, Kevin. It's been a pleasure, and I think I've looked forward to this, and it's lived up to its expectations. So thank you for a wonderful conversation. It's been fun.
Well, let's do it again, and let's go have that drink one day so we can sit and
awesome.
Drill down. We'll do that. Okay.
Done. Let's do it.
See ya.
Bye, Kevin.